Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What is up, my party people? Good to see you here on a Friday on the channel. We've had a great week of content. MBRs on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Knocked out a great Q&A last night for you. If you haven't checked those out, feel free to do so here on the channel. It's been a great offseason to be here on the Film Guy Network. It's only going to continue to grow as the season nears us. And do not kid yourself, it is going to be here before you know it. We got a great one planned for you today. Going to sit down, talk some shop with Aaron Murray, a Georgia football legend. Just did an episode over on his show. So if you haven't checked that out, go check it out, theplayerslounge.com or .io, excuse me. And we're going to have him here on a Home and Home today. So hope you guys enjoy it. We're going to talk some football, have a standard interview like we do with everybody else. Then we're going to actually watch some football. Unfortunately for you folks over on YouTube, you're only going to get the interview. So if you want to check out us actually watching the 2012 SEC Championship game, you only got two places to find it. Either on patreon.com/Brooks Austin, link in the bio, or checking us out at Creature Comforts on April 15th, G-Day, okay? Those are the two places. We just watched the first half here. You're going to check it out on patreon.com/Brooks Austin. You can catch the second half live in person with that good Go-Go Juice in-person Creature Comforts G-Day event, sponsored and brought to you by the Players Lounge. So without further ado, here is myself and Aaron Murray, talking some ball, talking some football. Hope you enjoy it. See ya. What's up, Aaron Murray? How you doing, brother?
Man, just excited for G-Day. It's spring. It's warm weather. We're talking football. I had to talk basketball for like 2 or 3 months for a lot of my shows, which was okay. But, you know, we're football guys. So it's good that we got some football to talk about with all these spring games going on.
You know, I forget that you wear so many damn different hats that, like, you're like general take guy now too. Like, that's like you have to give general takes on general sports topics.
Dude, basketball, baseball, softball, gymnastics, women's basketball. So, like,
what are the hoops takes like from Aaron Murray? Because I know the hoop game is probably not strong.
No, hoop game is bad. Like I was a good defender. I was a good facilitator. I hate shooting.
High effort guy means I'm trash at basketball. So let's just get that out of the way.
I was always the best player on the team.
Okay.
I just didn't like to shoot. I like for being a quarterback, dude, I hated shooting the basketball. Like I hated being on the free throw line. I got super big time anxiety shooting free throws. But like playing, I was like the best defender. I was always the point guard, great handles. Just, you don't want me shooting. You know, like when the old Caitlin girl the other day told the girl like that, you know, no one needs to go guard her at the 3-point line. That's what people were doing to me. They're like, he ain't going to shoot the ball. So we ain't going to go out there. That was,
so you were the original self-check. Like he's all right.
Which I wasn't even mad about it. Like I know I'm not going to shoot. Like I'll drive it to the hole and I'm going to body you, but I ain't shooting from the 3.
That's interesting. Well, I'll be honest, Aaron. I'm kind of ignorant to the 30 for 30 that is Aaron Murray. I didn't really, you know, I was in like 8th or 9th grade when you were a recruit, so I didn't really track Aaron Murray. But when I look back at it and I started looking at the research and doing the research on it, I used to a kid from Plant High School in Tampa, Florida, during the run, like the supremacy of Florida Gator football. I mean, Tim Tebow's wrapping up his career. By the time you're a junior, senior in high school, they've kind of moved off Cam Newton. How do you not end up a Florida Gator? Like, for someone who doesn't know, how does Aaron Murray not end up a Florida Gator?
Well, they weren't technically off camp just yet. Like, I remember I was going because I did all the visits. Like, I went to Georgia, I went to Florida. I remember I went to the Florida, you know, visit, and I'm sitting in the room with, you know, Dan Mullen and Tebow's there and Cam's there and John Brantley was there, and they're big dudes. Like, you know, and I kind of look at the offense and I look at all the, you know, the zone reads and, you know, saw the highlights of Cam running in certain games. And obviously we all know what kind of, you know, style of football Tebow played. I'm like, first off, like that ain't me. You know, I'm 6'1" on a good day. You know, I was 195. Like I was not trying to be a bulldozing running guy. But like, obviously, like, hey, listen, we coached Alex Smith. You know, Alex is a great athlete, but he's not built like Cam. He's not built like Tebow. Like we can work around quarterbacks. I'm like, okay, that sounds good. It comes down to, you know, comfort level with the coach for me. That was the biggest thing. Like I went to Georgia. I knew Bobo and Rick were there. I really like Coach Mullen. Like I still have a great relationship with Coach Mullen to this day. And I liked Urban, didn't love Urban, but I'm like, whatever. Like that doesn't really matter to me because I'm going to be working with Dan mostly. But the issue was Dan was on his way out. That was the bigger deal. Not knowing who my OC was going to be, to me, was the bigger problem, especially because like I didn't get the extreme warm and fuzzy from Urban. So it's like, okay, do I want to commit somewhere where I don't know who the OC is going to be? You know, they still got Cam. They got Brantley at the time. And then I look at Georgia and I was like, okay, they got Bobo, who I loved. They got Rick, who I love. They have Stafford on roster. Joe Cox is going to be a fifth-year senior. And that's it. Like Bobo, he's like, dude, we need quarterbacks. Like we don't have quarterbacks on the roster. And he's like, we're going to take 2 in your class, but like it's wide open. So I was like, and the offense I thought was better fit for me too. So those are the reasons why.
It is kind of interesting. It's interesting to hear you say that because like he probably referenced Alex Smith quite a bit in your recruitment, and it's like, Coach, Alex Smith's a great football player, but Alex Smith was the type of quarterback that you had and you were forced to use, not forced to use, but that you were privy to use at Utah. Once you got here and you started deciding the guys that you want, Urban, and you want Dan, they look nothing like me. Like even Dak Prescott, Aaron, looks nothing like you. Nothing like you.
Well, that's what's funny. This is why I remember when Justin Field was coming out. And obviously Justin's from Georgia, and I was ecstatic as hell that he was going to be, committing to UGA. But Fromm was there, and my big thing is like, dude, Fromm just took Georgia to the Natty first year. Dan just got the job at Florida. I'm like, dude, if I'm Justin, and I've seen what Dan Mullen has produced at quarterback, and I look just like those guys, size wise, strength wise, athletic ability wise. I mean, he's a better thrower than Tebow is. He's a better thrower than Cam is. I would say very similar traits to Dak, probably faster than Dak. I mean, you can't tell me if he would have been at Florida, what damage the whole thing would be different. Dan Mullen would still be the head coach at Florida right now. If I think he would have made the right decision, decommitted from Georgia and gone to Florida.
It's interesting to hear you be a Dan Mullen stan. I'm a Dan Mullen offensive coordinator, offensive mind stan. I think as he became a head coach, we started letting some things that are required to run a successful organization start to slip and slide. But as an offensive mind, brilliant. Designer, brilliant, for sure. Aaron, I mean, 19th player overall in the country in your class, if you just Google Scout you, if you just look at the wiki, basically. You're a highly, highly touted football recruit coming out of high school. I'm interested to know, and especially now with your affiliation with the Players Lounge, you kind of understand what NIL is, what modern recruiting looks like. What does 17-year-old Aaron Murray do and handle, and how does he go about recruitment in 2023? Because 2009, like the streets were wild then, but like nowadays it's like, whoa. So like what would it be like, man?
I would hope that I wouldn't let the money dictate the decision. It would be up there. I mean, it would be top 3. There's no doubt. It probably in my mind, it would move ahead of academics. My mom wouldn't be too happy, for me to say that. So maybe we, don't show her this interview. But yeah, definitely for me, I would focus on, the coaches first. I still think that's the most important thing. Like, where can I go and play? Where can I go and learn? Where can I go and develop to become the best quarterback I could be, to give myself an opportunity to go to the NFL? Because that's where the real money is. Like, it's great to get money between 18 and 22. And yes, some of these dudes are getting paid bank. But like, if you can develop in a way that takes your game to another level, that money's going to come later too. So that was one. I would probably say, honestly, the money would be 2. Like, I wouldn't really care about facilities. I'd be like, most of these places have great facilities. Where can I get coached? Where can I get paid? And then probably academics after that.
Just right up there. Where can I get coached? Where can I get paid? Right? Because it's the NFL, then the NIL. I would probably rank them the same as well. Like, are we doing what we're supposed to do to make sure we're reaching the ultimate pinnacle of this sport, while also are we maintaining that there's actually some financial capabilities while we're playing basically not a rec league, but a developmental league. That's what college football is. Yep. Like, when you're talking about someone who is a top 50 evaluation, a top 25 evaluation in his class. That 17-year-old has aspirations to play in the NFL. There's no doubt about that. So you have got to make sure you're checking the boxes along that way. So obviously you go on to commit to Georgia. You go on to play at Georgia, set records there. You are a Mark Richt, Mike Bobo guy. Mike Bobo is the constant in this discussion. So we'll talk about him a little bit later. But you played there 4 years. You're very close to the program still. I'm curious, when I talk to guys who are Richt guys, Richt regime guys, and they've been around the program under the current regime, what's the main difference? Like, when you think about it, what is the primary difference when you walk around that building between what it felt like when you were a player and what you know it now to be?
I would say that a little bit more of that feisty mentality. And I think that's the biggest difference a little bit. Coach Richt did a great job of, developing us as men. And that's what I love and respect about him. But, he let Bobo and Grantham kind of do their thing. Rick was, he was with Bobby at Florida State, Bobby Bowden, and Bobby towards the end of his time there at Florida State, he was the, CEO just driving around the golf cart, observing, shaking hands with recruits, moms, dads, donors, going to the meetings, going to the lunches. Like that was his thing. Yeah, all relationships. And, that was Rick mostly. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like there's, plenty of guys out there doing it. And I honestly think the way that college football is going right now, you need a guy that's more of a CEO role because there's just so many responsibilities. So, he got a little bit more involved with the offense. I would say about, my junior, senior year, he'd come into some more meetings. So I think he kind of missed it. I mean, it's tough. Like I being a head coach in college football, there are so many things pulling you different directions. And I talked to Greeny about this. I talked to probably about 2 months ago. And because I asked him, because I didn't realize that Bobo wasn't calling plays when he was there. He was actually Coach Rick. And Rick told him number of years later that I just couldn't keep up with the trends of college football because my responsibilities in the offseason, instead of watching tape, seeing what other offenses were doing, how can I innovate my offense? I was doing all this other stuff. So he's like, I had to give up the play calling duties. I didn't want to, but just for the sake of our offense continuing to move in the right direction, I had to give it up to Bobo. So I could feel that he missed that during the time, as any coach would, because that's why you get in the coaching. You don't get in the coaching for all the other BS. You get in there to coach. I think right now Kirby somehow has found a way, and I'm just waiting for fatigue to set in, and I don't know if it will for him or not because he's just got more energy than else. He has found a way to do all the other stuff, but also stay ultra involved with the day-to-day grind of meetings, practice, everything going on, fundamentals, all that stuff. So I don't know how he does it. I really don't. I don't know how a coach can do all those responsibilities, have a family, and be sane. But Kirby's just a different breed. That's it. I mean, that's the difference. He somehow has cracked the code of being able to do it all and be fully focused in on the team.
So when I hear players and people who are around the program talk about Coach Rick, the first thing they talk about is him as a man, him as like a Christian man, particularly like him as a lover of men. Like that's what he does. He pours back into the people around him. The number one thing people talk about, probably 1 and 2, 1A and 1B, energy and micromanagement about Kirby Smart. Those are the two things. Somehow, some way, he has the energy and the willingness to be involved in everything around that building. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the main difference. So, like, if you just take people for who they are at their core and what people talk about them, almost like a mission statement. Mark Richt's mission statement was, come here to be a better man.
Yeah.
Kirby Smart's mission statement is, I watch everything. Yeah. Like I'm everything. He's do it
24/7, man. I don't know how he does it. I really don't. I'm like, I want whatever, he's got that limitless pill or something that he takes every day. Cause there is no stop to that dog in him, man. And, the pregame speeches do hit a little bit different. I will say that, that's a little bit different too. But I mean, I honestly, that's one of the main reasons why I signed with Coach Richt, though, is because of that. Like, there was a trust factor. Like, we all have to understand, like, we do want to win championships. We do want to go out there and get ready for the NFL, all that stuff. But like, there is something about developing as a man too. And not saying Kirby doesn't do this. Kirby does. And I don't want to say that I don't know that program well enough to really get into that part of it. But I do know with Coach Richt, there was a sense of like, man, you as a human being is far more important than you as a football player. And I respected that because it's true. Like our football careers are very quick and short. As soon as I graduate from Georgia, guess what? Those fans are already on to the next quarterback. But me as a man and as a father and as a husband, that lasts forever. And those lessons that I learned will then go to my son and daughter and et cetera, et cetera. It's like, to me, the becoming a better man is lifelong. Me being a great quarterback for 4 years, why it's great. Like I said, man, it's, fans, they're on to the next player the next year anyways. So yeah, I felt like I left a good legacy and did the right things. And I still think people, respect that. But for me, the dad and husband thing is more important. I learned that, weekly from Coach Rick.
I was about to say, I think that's also a 32-year-old's perspective of life and the decisions that you've made. Like, I look back,
no. But I see, like, I was fortunate enough, like I came from a really good family.
Yeah.
So like that, like there was always a sense of like how involved my dad was in my life from like being my coach. My mom was always my sister's coach. Like they were always volunteering. They were always a part of my life. They were always, a great example of what parents should be like. I had a really, really strong foundation. So like that for me was something that I always wanted to strive for. And knowing that I could be passed off from being with my family for 18 years and being taught the right things to someone that was going to continue that for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I thought was powerful for me and for my family.
You wanted a continuation of the foundation that was already 100%. So I'm curious, early enrollment wasn't even a thing then. So when did you get on campus? Like mid-June?
No, it was.
It was?
Oh, it was early on. Because when they have like 20 dudes now.
Yeah, now it's like everybody's enrolled by mid-December, mid-January, basically. So when did you get on campus your freshman year?
Oh, I got in there in January. I mean, it was on the newer side of things.
Okay.
So there was only 3 of us. It was myself, Met early enrolled, and Dallas Lee. So only 3 of us. Like most schools had anywhere from 0 to 3. That was it. It wasn't like the biggest thing in the world to do. It was just mostly quarterbacks at the time. Like if you looked at across the country, 90% of guys that were doing it were quarterbacks. Other positions, there wasn't like this need to get there. And obviously that's changed now. Like everyone kind of feels like they have to graduate early and early enrollee. And I get it. I wish it wasn't possible, honestly. Like I just wish it was not a thing. And, because you can't go back and take away your senior year. Like those are your boys. Like, those are your guys you grew up with and played Pee Wee football with and, had sleepovers with.
On graduation now, man.
Yeah, I didn't even go to my graduation. Like if it was, I'll say this, if it wasn't there, it wouldn't be missed.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be missed.
All right, so you get on campus in January. So you go through a spring. Like you're one of 3 freshmen to go through spring practice that year. And you're like immediately in a quarterback battle because you start your freshman year, first game. So take me through like what a quarterback battle feels. We're in the middle of spring practice right now, Georgia. They got one going on. So what does a quarterback battle feel like? How was it back then? And we'll talk about going into coaching with Bobo, but or what it feels like to be coached by him, because it sounds like it's quite.
Why Richard? So that first year Joe started. So I mean, there was the mentality of, maybe I could beat Joe out. Like as a competitor, you want to be the starter, obviously. And I was, as you alluded to earlier, like I was a highly recruited kid, so I wanted to start. I was coming off a pretty nasty injury my senior year, so that kind of hurt me a little bit. But I went in there with the mindset of like, how do I learn this playbook? How do I, get the footwork down? Because I came from more of a spread offense. Like my high school, I was never under center. And if everyone remembers Bobo from 09 to 13 when I was there, dude, we were under center.
We're gonna watch it here a little bit. Y'all were under center, I formation with a fullback.
Play action pass. Like I never did any of that. I honestly, if I go back and watch my high school tape, like there may have been 10 to 20 snaps in 2 years of me starting, of me being under center. That's it. Everything was gun, 3 wide, 4 wide. I mean, Orson Charles, our tight end at Georgia who committed with me, Orson was a receiver for us in high school. Like that's who we were. So it was a big adjustment. Like that's what you saw about like guys going from college to NFL. It is a big adjustment, just timing wise and comfort wise, getting under center, getting a snap from the center. getting that timing, being able to drive away from the center, all that takes time. So, I think it was good for me to redshirt. I think it's good for everyone to redshirt. I mean, there's very few guys that are special enough to start day one.
Yeah.
But then the next year, yeah, it was Logan Gray was kind of, I think it was known that he was going to move to receiver.
Yeah.
And it was just Med and I. That was it. I think it was Med and I, and maybe Hudson was committed that year, I believe. So he was going to come in the summer. I think so. But anyways, like it was every day, man, us back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I'd get the ones one day, he get the ones the other day. I get the ones, he get the ones. Logan would come in there every now and then, but he was, like I said, mostly going to be receiver. And it was a great battle. We had our days. The one thing I always tell guys, and I've told Carson this too, and I think Brock is, I felt like I got into the trap at times and so consumed with how Met was doing. And Met's a big kid. Met's 6'5", rocket, and he looks the part, and he would fire in some passes, and I'd be like, damn it, I got to go do that too. I got to do that. I got to do it. I got into the comparison game, which is just not healthy. That's the one thing I wish I would tell myself, my younger self, is like, just go out there and do you. Don't worry about the stats. Don't worry about comparing. Just focus on, am I running the offense the way Bobo wants me to run the offense?
It can become so individualistic at times. Cause like, I was trying to explain this to somebody the other day. They were like, what, try to explain the culture at Georgia. Like, how are they getting kids to stick around? What are they doing? And I think it is a lot of the skull sessions, right? Where you're mixing and matching with different people across from like different portions of the roster. Whereas like most teams I've ever played on, Aaron, and I don't know about you, but you played on a bunch of different teams. Most teams that I played on, they're dwindled down and departmentalized, meaning like I pretty much only hung out with offensive linemen. I pretty much only hung out with tight ends. I pretty much only hung out with quarterbacks as a center. Like I never hung out with defensive tackles. I never hung out with corners or wide receivers or guys that I never was around from a day-to-day basis operationally. So what ends up happening is like you get dwindled down into just this room. And guess what? The guy next to you you're competing against. Like you're not buddies, you're not friends. Like
I was roommates with Matt my first year now.
You might
be. You want to talk about that? You want to talk about that? Like competing against someone all day, then you have to go home with them afterwards. Like that was interesting.
And awkward as shit because you can try as a human. You're still a human. Like you can try to be friends, you can do whatever, but you're still trying to beat that guy. Like that's hard.
Well, because like if I had a bad day and I'm going back home moping and he had a good day, it's always a little bit awkward. Like, hey, go get him tomorrow, but really don't because don't. I mean, there was multiple times like I'd call my mom during that spring. I was like, hey, listen, this was, obviously way before the transfer portal. We could still transfer, but you had to sit out. I was like, I might have to, if I don't win this thing, I'm never going to start here. We're the same year. So like, I'd really need to start considering like, that's always thing. Like if you don't need to worry about the guys ahead of you. Like I didn't care that Joe Cox was going to start for a year. You worry about the guys that are your class or below you, because if you lose that out, you're done. You got to move on. So, I mean, there was multiple times during that spring where, I had a bad day and Met played well. And I'm calling my mom saying, I ain't going to win this thing. I might have to transfer after this semester, which is hard, for a top 20 recruit to, be so excited to be, the guy to follow up Stafford. And, in a year and a half, maybe out of the building. So, it's a grind. I mean, that's why we always say like the mental side of the game, you have to be so mentally strong to kind of battle through those days. Cause you're 19 years old. Not every day is going to be good. Like you're going to have bad days. You're going to have good days.
Of the world. Everything feels like the end of the world when you're that age.
Mm-hmm.
But good news. You go on to win the job. You start as a redshirt freshman. You get a nice little easy walk into college football against Lafayette. And then, dude, what has to be the 4 toughest game stretch of your career, I would imagine, at that point, right? You lose like 4. I'm not going to call them ugly ones, but it's South Carolina, it's Arkansas, it's Vanderbilt, and I think it's Colorado. You finished with a loss to Colorado. So take me there. You lose 4 games in a row. You're 1-4. As a redshirt freshman, just starting at the University of Georgia, on that plane ride back from Colorado, dropping a heartbreaker. Sit me in that seat.
And all those games, we were right in them too. It's
Like
not like
in
we
them,
were
they're 1-score games.
every single game was 1-score game. So it's not like that was the hard part to me because high school I was so used to. I mean, we'd beat the crap out of everyone. There's only one team that could compete with us. That was Armwood. We would win every game by 50, 60 points. There was never a close game besides when we played those guys. And then now all of a sudden you get to this league and everything it's 4 or 5 plays. That's the difference. There's 4 or 5 plays in every single one of those games that ball bounces one way or the other, or we make a play and they don't make a play in that play. It's the other way around.
17-6 South Carolina,
Yeah.
31-24 Arkansas, and you drop a 12-pointer to Mississippi State at home or on the road.
On the road. But all of them, we were right in there. Like we were leading at times. Just nothing was ever like we felt like we were completely outmatched or overblown. It also didn't help. I will make an excuse here. Didn't help. My boy AJ Green was suspended for the first 4 games of the season.
Yeah.
Like that kind of sucked a little bit. And we were rolling versus Colorado. Then he started cramping up his first game back. But that was a weapon that could have made that thing different. But then we got going though.
Yeah, I mean, y'all rip off 3 in a row before you play a really good Florida team.
That team had some great senior leadership. That was one of the, on both sides of the football, which was the shocking thing. Like you see the guys that were drafted off that team, especially on defense, you're like, how are we not elite? And it just still to me today, like that first year team with, like Houston and Dent and we had some top safeties. Obviously, you had AJ, you had Ben Jones, Clint Boling,
Justin
Houston. Look at our offensive line: Ben Jones, who's still in the NFL, Clint Boling, who played forever. I'm drawing a blank on our left tackle, who was a monster, who was like a top pick.
Foster.
Yeah, just crazy talented football team, and I don't know, we just didn't get it done that year.
You mentioned him, so I'm going to ask. AJ Green always struck me as like an introvert, kind of like a quiet guy, unless your name is Jalen Ramsey. Was there ever a time your freshman year where he walks into the huddle and he's like, God damn it, freshman, just throw me the ball. Like, what are you doing?
No, because all I did was throw him the ball. I mean, as like, it was Bobo literally is like, just throw AJ the ball. Just throw it. I mean, we did everything we could to get AJ matched up. Which as we should have. I mean, a lot of times it's like 3-by-1, he'd be the backside. A lot of times in just a pro set, formation, all the play action passes were mostly designed to go to AJ, whether it's like a double post or a bench route to the outside or a hitch route. I mean, the offense ran through AJ. Similar to how it like runs through Brock right now. Like obviously, you got a 6'5" receiver that can run a 4.4. You're going to throw it to him every chance you get. The things that he did were just outrageous. His length was amazing. I mean, his ability and he was country song. Like he wasn't
wiry,
thick, but he was so long. He's like a boxer. Like you couldn't reach him. As soon as he catches it, he'd give you a stiff arm, and then he had the speed, and he's off to the races. So, no, there was never that moment because, like I said, man, everything went through him anyways. Like we were throwing the ball to him as much as we could.
I guess that's one thing I've heard about Bobo a lot is that it's that college and NFL dichotomy that we were talking about on your show, whereas like college offensive coordinators are very prone to designing offenses for their best players. Like that's just who they are. They don't because their roster changes so fast and so often that they can't develop just one scheme or one offense. They kind of have to develop it around what their talent is. So I'm very interested to see what Bobo kind of tweaks and how much they force feed. Because I would imagine in your time, you felt like you were force feeding for good reason. Whereas under Monken, I didn't see a lot of force feeding going on, dude.
We didn't force feed a lot after AJ, though. I mean, we were pretty balanced. I mean, because, we had backs that could catch the ball in the backfield. Isaiah could catch out of the backfield. Todd could catch out of the backfield. Keith could. We had Orson, who was a top 3-round pick. We matched Orson up a ton. Malcolm, Bennett, TK. Like we were a lot more balanced after AJ. I just think when you have a guy like that, it's hard not to just say, get him the ball, move him around. Where's the weak link? And Monken did that a little bit last year, though. I mean, there's a reason why Bowers was in so many different spots. if you get the right read and he's one-on-one, you're going to take the shot.
For sure.
If he's backside or if AJ was backside, we did a lot of check with me plays where I got to line of scrimmage, especially in 3-by-1 formations. And if it was like a first or second down, it was usually a run pass option. If a team wanted to play too high because they didn't want to leave their corner one-on-one with AJ, we were going to run some inside zone scheme and take advantage of numbers. And if they wanted to go single high, you're going to leave AJ one-on-one the backside. That's perfect with me. We'd have some sort of route combination with him and our back with, somewhat flat control on the outside. So it makes it easy on the quarterback. I know 2 high, run the ball. 1 high, I got AJ Green one-on-one. Yeah. Let's go make a play.
Now, I heard the quarterbacks talking about him the other day, and I've heard Keith talk about your relationship with Coach Bobo here on this channel. What's playing for Coach Bobo like? Because it sounds like he's an MFer. Like, it sounds like he is. And
supposedly he's calmed down a lot. Supposedly Bobo is calmed down a lot. He was a big get in my ass 24/7. I mean, there were days where I felt like I didn't even know how to play football. But it's funny because come game day, he's your best friend. He wanted to make Monday through Friday harder. I mean, he would dog me Monday through Friday. Like, how do you even have a scholarship, Aaron, kind of thing? Or your ass is going to get benched for Hudson. And I'm just like, all right, Bobo, whatever. But like he knows his stuff and he loves the fundamentals, which I'm a big fan of the fundamentals. We grinded fundamentals day in, day out. And I trusted him, going back to what we talked about before, like the fact that he played at Georgia was a big selling point to me because he was a big sounding board. Like if I had issues on or off the field, like no matter how much he was an asshole to me, maybe that day in practice, like he was always there to talk to me or listen to me or break it down. And there was such a trust factor there. But like the biggest thing that I appreciate besides that was he let me really be involved in the offense and expected me to be involved with the offense. Like there was a sense of, hey, Sunday night, Monday morning, Aaron, I better have your top plays on my desk. I want to know what you like. What do you want to run this week? I want your voice to be a part of this offensive scheme. And that was, for me, was awesome. It wasn't, I'm the coach, you're the player, go out there and run calls. It was, you and I are in this together. You're my quarterback. I'm your OC. And let's put together a plan to go out there and win. And that was a lot of fun for me to do.
That was on the question sheet right here. I always want to know the intricate details about player coordinator relationships because they're not always like that. Like I find that maybe fans don't realize how much time college football players do have once they get up in their like upper graduate classes. Where, dude, you got class from like 8 to 10, and then you got nothing to do until practice. So what was the relationship like with you and Bobo as your kind of progression at Georgia, happened? Like your junior year, third, fourth year in the system, you probably know it pretty damn good. Are y'all installing game plans together?
Oh yeah, we were. And like I was the type, like this was like kind of my week, Sunday morning I go to, brunch with my family, and then I was I'd go do rehab. And then from like probably 1 to 6, 1 to 7, I was watching film. So I would watch our game, go talk with him a little bit about it. We talk about, the good, the bad. We were going to watch it again as a quarterback group the next day, but just to kind of, get some stuff out of the way, then go back, watch about 3-4 hours of the next team, probably two, maybe 3 games. And then I'd kind of go up there, just my general thoughts, like, hey, this is kind of their base defense. This is what I like. And we'd kind of go through it that night. And then we'd do through second, third down and red zone midweek. And, then on Friday, him and I would sit down and we would have all the plays that him and I both liked for the week, what we've ran, what I liked, what I didn't like. And then, we would sit down and rank them, of like, okay, here's all of our pro sets, here of all of our, 11 personnel. This is the third down. This is the red zone. And we'd have, 10 plays per section essentially. And, I would sit down and just go 1 through 10. Like, okay, if it's 3rd and 5, and here's our 5 plays, call this first, call this second, call this third, call this fourth, call this fifth. And he did, because he's like, you're the one out there playing. Like, I'm not going to call something that you don't like. Besides one time he did. Other than that, he was
what was the one time? Come on now. Come on. What was the one time?
It worked. It was a concept versus Vanderbilt. And I didn't like it. I don't know why I didn't like it. I just did not like it. And we practiced it in practice, and I just wasn't really feeling it, which is weird because it's a pretty simple concept. I mean, extremely simple concept. I don't know. For me, I was like, maybe it's too simple. I don't think it's gonna work. I don't know. I was just dogging it. And at some point during the game, he's like, dude, we're running this. Like, we're just gonna run it. I'm like, whatever, Bobo, fine, let's go. And I think I threw 2 touchdowns on the play. And he was just like chuckling, laughing, like, I told you it was going to work. I'm like, all right, I guess you're right. But yeah, he called it twice in the game. It was versus Vanderbilt on the road, and I threw touchdowns on the same play twice. I think to the same receiver too. So Bobo knows best. That was the one time where he kind of put his foot down, like, no, we're running this. But other than that, he was pretty good about, trusting me with what I want to do.
I wondered at what point in your career did that open up? Like second year starting, midway through the first
I would say
year?
second year.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think he got fed up with me, because the first year, maybe year and a half, we were still feeling each other out, and he'd be like, "Do you like this play?" I'm just like, "Yes, I like it, I like it, I like it." Like I was just like, "Just call it, I'll run it." And he's like, "I know you don't like it." So then finally we got to the ranking system, and from like midway through the second year on, it was we ranked everything, so he knew, like, I knew you didn't like that because obviously it'd be way down the list still.
Yeah.
And he would kind of trim some of the fat in the play call sheet. But it was a great working relationship. That's why I tell all those guys, like, man, like if you put in the time,
Yeah.
and Bobo knows that you've put in the time, he will let you run the offense a little bit. He's not going to let you run if you're not out there watching the tape and have a good reason for why you want to run something.
Yeah.
You're just like, I like this. Like, well, why do you like it? I just like it. Well, no, I'm not putting in the offense. Like, you go find a reason why you like this, and I'll find a way to put it in the game plan.
Find the why, essentially. All right.
Yeah.
Last football question I got you before we actually watch football. Big Ben Jones fan myself. Nastiest thing you've ever seen Ben Jones do on, off the field, whether it be the nastiest case of swamp ash you've ever had to walk up underneath, whether it be the nastiest play you've ever seen him do, the grossest thing you've ever seen him do in the bottom of a pile. What is it? What is the nastiest thing Ben Jones has ever done around Aaron Murray?
Dude, lucky for me, Ben and David had some dry butts, which was great. Like shocking. The worst thing, worst thing you could do as a quarterback is get under center and there's just plop, like plop. Both of them somehow had dry butts. It was great. They never sweat out of their butt, which was phenomenal. Big plus when you're a pro style offense. Ben was nasty, man. From like pregame walking on the field without shoes, no matter if it's like rain, shine, freezing, muddy, eating weird stuff out of the hot tub.
Wait, what?
Yeah, like if there was like an insect somehow that got in the hot tub, people would like dare Ben, like, you won't. He's like, watch me, and he'd just like grab it and eat it. You're like, he would eat anything. If you dared him, Ben would eat anything, any animal, insect, whatever. On the field versus Auburn, he ripped off the dreads of a middle linebacker my freshman year and tried to give them to me in the huddle. And I'm like, dude, like I had a broken sternum. I can't talk. And then he just shoved them in his pants for the rest of the game.
That's like a souvenir.
And he tied it to his ceiling fan back at home afterwards. So like to turn the fan on, you had to grab the dreadlocks.
What the?
I mean, dude, Ben was on the field. Anytime there was a pile, you would hear like, ah, like someone screaming, and you get out and see Ben like smiling. I'm like, you're just a nasty dude. I love it.
So for those who don't know, Ben had a handful in the bottom of those piles, I would imagine. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And he has some strong hands. Ben had some of the strongest hands you would, if anyone I've ever known. I mean, like every guy on our team knew it. Offensive guy, defensive guy, guys in the other team. And I talked to him the other day about this. Like that's because I asked him, like, would you rather have like a 380-pound guy or like an Aaron Donald? He's like, dude, give me the big boys.
Yeah.
Because like these strong hands, like once I get them locked down, I don't care how big you are, these mitts ain't letting you go. And it's true. Like he'll squish them little things.
He's pretty well known now for like all of his pain tolerance, I think is what I know him for now. Mm-hmm. Like obviously he's a great NFL football player. He's got a chance to maybe be a borderline Hall of Famer depending on how things shake out. But like I know him for his pain tolerance. Did you ever see him play through anything?
He's always playing through pain. Always playing through pain. Like Ben would have to be broken. And even then he would still probably play through it. Like you ain't taking him off the field unless he physically can't go. But sprain, whatever, he's getting after it.
You want to watch some football?
Let's go, baby.
Let's do it.